and welcome back to another World of Tanks console video. My name is Zach, and today we'll be looking at the brand new Tier 8 German Premium Light Tank, the Höllenhund, or Hellhound as I'll be calling it throughout the video. Just because of pronunciation purposes, I know I'll probably screw up the German pronunciation of it, and it seemed a little bit more funner to go with Hellhound, the English pronunciation. So right off the bat, you can see my brand new wallpaper for these videos. I'll be using this in this review as well as in the Type 62 Dragons review. But you can see the awakened versions of these tanks, and man, do these tanks look great. I can't wait to play them in the Halloween event, or I should say I have played them in the Halloween event, and unfortunately that's already passed by the time these videos come out. So, as per normal, we're going to be going over to the tank comparison sheet. This becomes pretty much the standard in most of my videos. I just feel more comfortable doing it this way. So, whenever I have a Tier 8 counterpart, whenever I have a tech tree counterpart, to compare the standard tank, or to compare the brand new premium tank to, I tend to stick along that path, and just deciding to stick it against the RU-251 seems rather reasonable, as they're both carrying roughly the same guns. So the firepower stat of the Hellhound and the RU-251 is equivalent to 37. Both are carrying a 90mm caliber gun, and the RU-251 takes the first win with the 6.2 base reload, beating out the 6.6 on the Hellhound. Rather peculiar considering they're both carrying a 90mm, but the tanks are, I think the RU-251 is just a little bit bigger, and that kind of shows. But 9.68 on the base rate of fire, beating out the 9.09. Not that much of a difference with the reload and the rate of fire. Keep that in mind. It's something you can take advantage of. Not something to be discerned as far as the Tier 8 Premium Light Tank goes. So on penetration, we can scroll down here. Penetration will be 190 on the AP rounds for the RU-251, beats out the 182 on the standard AP rounds for the Hellhound. 250 is both equal on both tanks. And a peculiar little suggestion for this tank is the HEP rounds. The higher penetration on the HEP rounds, being at 102, is equal on both tanks. Keep that in mind whenever you're aiming at lower or lightly armored tanks. That's always something to consider taking a little bit more of. Standard damage on both tanks is 240 with the 90mm, and on the HEP rounds, scrolling up to 320. Shell cost for these tanks, on the Hellhound, 280 for the AP rounds, 4,800 on the heat rounds, 450 on the HEP rounds. And on the RU-251, 330 on the AP rounds, 4,000 on the RU-251's heat rounds, and 350 on the HEP rounds. Now, keep in mind, I keep all these to silver because most of the time it's easier to compare silver rather than having it spend gold. If you want to know the gold equivalents, I'll have to look at that at a different time, or I'll try to include it in a future video if you guys want that, preferably. So, shell velocity, 830 on the AP rounds for the Hellhound, 830 on the heat rounds, and 773 meters a second on the HEP rounds. But unfortunately loses out on the RU-251, and it only loses in regard to the heat rounds. And because 190 on Tier 8 light tanks isn't all that fun to fire, most people use the higher penetrating with 250 on the premium rounds, and that boosts your shell velocity up to 1,145 meters a second, beating out the heat rounds on the Hellhound. Fortunately for the RU-251, its standard and HEP rounds that most people should run with will beat out the RU-251, so keep that in mind. Only if you decide to spend premium will you have the advantage in the RU-251. Ammo capacity being 46, so you'll have a little bit more damage output than the RU-251, and I really should add that to the sheet. I'll keep that in mind for the next video. DPM on these tanks are the same with 2,323.2 when using standard rounds, and with the HEP rounds it jumps up to 3,997.6. And that, remember, HEP round, even though it has a higher penetration, is still a high explosive ammo. Keep that in mind. Only if you penetrate will it actually do that damage. So one of the gun characteristics that the Hellhound exceeds at is its 1.8 aim time, beating out the 2.10 on the RE251, but unfortunately loses out in dispersion with 0.36 on the RE251 to the 0.38 on the Hellhound. Gun elevation, the RE251 takes it with 18 and 10 degrees. 18 on elevation, 10 on depression, beating out the 17 on elevation for the Hellhound and 8 degrees on the gun depression. But hull traverse speed and turret traverse speed, 54 and 50 respectively, beat out the 44 even on the RE251. Mobility stat, and of course the RE251 takes this. That lightly armored German tank is able to scoot around the battlefield a lot more better than most tanks. 630 in the engine gives it a 24.59 horsepower to ton with a 12% chance of fire, 80% or 80 kilometers forward speed and 24 reverse, beating out the Hellhound with 21.28 horsepower to ton, 20% fire chance, 72.4 kilometers on the forward and 20 on the reverse. So the Hellhound loses out in that regard, but the RE251 exceedingly beats out most light tanks in that regard, but loses out in terrain resistance. 0.6, 0.7, and 1.2 hard, medium, soft on the Hellhound beats out 0.8, 0.9, and 1.6 on the RE251. Survivability stat for both these tanks is 25. Keep that in mind. Not really trading off a lot if you decide to get the RE251, but that extra 100 hit points can come in handy as the RE251 gets 1200 and the Hellhound gets 1100. In armor thickness, you just have a slight advantage in the RE251 with 8mm to 35, beating out the 5mm to 38mm. So on the hull armor of the Hellhound, you have 25mm, and on the sides of the turret, or on the hull, sorry, 25, with 19 on the rear. And this part is the only part, the rear of the hull is the only thing that beats out the RE251. Just has 8mm on the rear of its hull, but 25 and 25 on the front and sides. So on the turret armor, 25mm all the way around on the Hellhound and 20mm on the all the way around on the RE251. So the Hellhound actually takes that one pretty easily. Concealment stat: the Hellhound is a little bit more taller thanks to its horns that actually count as spaced armor. Uh, when stationary, it's 0.25, and when moving, it's 0.25. Concealment stat is 52 on the Hellhound, and on the RE251 is a little bit lower profile, 64, with 0.31 when stationary and 0.31 when moving. So spotting stat is 89 across both tanks. That is relatively good because they both use both have a base view range of 400 meters and a base radio range of 745. But something that always gets everybody in the end is the cost of a premium tank versus the cost in silver. 7,800 gold for just the base tank, no additives from the wargame normally try to push on you, and 2,440,000 silver on the RE251. But that thing that everyone always goes after with their premium tanks, of course, is their premium tank bonuses. Being tier 8, 40% is still pretty good on silver multiplier, as well as a 20% XP premium bonus. But something you're going to want to take keen interest in is the fact that this tier 8 German light tank is a crew trainer. Gets a 50% premium crew bonus added. So Along with the 40% that you get an additional 50% just applied to the crew. So this will become probably one of my favorite crew trainers in the game, especially since it's a light tank. You get to just zoom around. So, and in that regard, that's where you would beat out the RE251. Your premium tanks always get those bonuses. Keep that in mind whenever you decide to select it. But of course, that wraps up this. Everybody always wants to see how that tank performs in game. So that's where we're going to go. We're going to go over to the gameplay. And you might hear the clicking. That is because I forgot to open up the file. But nevertheless, the Hellhound on the Ardennes map. And unfortunately, we don't. You can clearly see from the start that the overlays from my streaming is still there. Again, OBS isn't really friendly with that, but this matchmaking has been really good. Tier 8 majority of the tanks with a few tier 9s on top and a few tier 7s down below. That is actually really good matchmaking, and I was actually surprised throughout most of my game that the matchmaking was being this friendly this night. Normally it's not, especially with a light tank, tier 8 for that matter. So what I decided to do was quickly push up over onto the uh, eastern side of the map, trying to get some spots, but unfortunately get spotted as well from the enemy Hellhounds, or one of the enemy Hellhounds, as this tank was very popular on its first few nights playing. So you see me reversing instead of going forward, and that's just because I want to get down, if I get shot at, right into the cover, so reversing seemed like the more obvious solution, but the gun depression on the sides just wasn't able to peek over and get a shot in, and I could not support that guy. I give him my best shot, I really do. I apologize, little guy, I couldn't really pull up for you. But when you have that many tanks bearing down on you, not really gonna work. But already puts a good round into the Hellhound, but I'm not gonna stick around just to keep spotting. I gotta get out of there. There's too many tanks in one position. I'm not gonna go and sacrifice myself just to help some people get some spots. They have more people over there in that corner than I have hit points. So quickly pulling around, and I get detected again from the VK4502A Tier 8 German heavy tank. But I gotta get out, gotta get back around. Gonna try to support my friendlies in this corner just because I feel like we're getting pushed by way too many tanks, and I don't want to give too much of an opening. So I pull up, and the Lorraine gets spotted, and I miss with that auto aim. I feel like that's one of my most commonly common common mistakes I make is doing the auto aim first to try to get the gun lined up to where I need it to be, and then deciding to aim rather than just aiming right off the bat. And good shot into the T-54. At this point, I thought he actually pushed up a little bit more, but he goes right into that ditch, and so I decided to help my IS-3 by pulling forward a little bit more, but then noticed my screw up because he didn't push for the IS-3, he just pushed up, and the AP round had no chance of going through the top of the T-54. So the Hellhound is still up there. He decides to make his move. And you can see on the southern part of the map that our heavies and mediums on that side decide to finally make a push through the city. But they have some good competition to go through. So the 4502A, he decided to break off from the pack, and he's going to cut down the middle. I think the LeKpz are going to try to follow him. And I screw up right there. Trying to go through the turret of the 4502A with the standard rounds just wasn't happening, and I wasn't having much luck with the heavy tank charging towards me, and I mess up that shot, freaking out because he obviously has a good rate of fire that he could take me on in a few shots and trying to ram me. So the Lorraine actually saved him there, but I damaged his ammo rack in return, and he managed to track me, so I didn't stick around. I finally switched over to the premium heat rounds, and I gotta get a shot in. Boom, taking out the VK4502A. And if you notice on the map in the top corner on A6, that light tank, he was putting in some great shots, giving me good support. So I decided to pay the favor, stay back and help him. And he puts a good shot into the Lorraine. I track him in place. The Lorraine doesn't have that, and the Hellhound finishes him off. So that T-54 was actually putting up such a great fight over there, taking out an IS-3, and I believe it was like there was another tank destroyer, I can't remember the name, but the LeKpz comes charging in out of nowhere, that rammer of a heavy tank, getting some really good top speed there. And you can see it's clearly more maneuverable than most heavy tanks, so I decided to pull back, try to get out of its way. And that dead heavy tank manages to save me. So the Hellhound is getting pressured by the arty, so I figured I should pull around the LeKpz, get a shot in, and he actually got a shot. So, boom, finish him off with 84. Now it's my turn to help him out with the Tiger P that was pressuring him on that side. But can I get a shot in? Ah, the VK4502A's dead body saves another shot. And now the LeKpz's turret or gun actually stops another one of my shots, and I was not able to help my Hellhound buddy there, but better reload, taking out the Tiger P. Moving on to the next target, we got this T-54. So I have a choice. I can either go right or go left. I decided to go left because I would rather be behind some cover than getting hit from the artillery that I know is over in the H0 position. But unfortunately, my SU-14-2 decided to run forward a shotgun and got taken out fairly easy by the T-54. But he didn't pay attention, got a good shot into the side of him, and that shot just disappeared. It should have been, I don't know what that is. Didn't show hitting into the ground, it showed it went where I aimed it, didn't bounce off the T-54, and I got ghosted on that one. I feel robbed. I feel like they should give me back that one, because if I had that, maybe I would have gotten the Top Gun. Maybe. But, quickly moving forward, Scorpion G getting rammed to death by the E50, the Rammer Jr. as I call it, because the E50M holds the title. But that doesn't help my bad driving skills. And unfortunately for us, we evened back out at 3 versus 3 because the Hellhound on the enemy team gets a killing blow on the Conqueror. So I would ask in before this part for you guys not to judge me on this really bad aiming skills, but yeah, I regret every shot. Once, twice, and credit where credit is due, that light tank bobbing and weaving actually managed to screw up my aim, as well as me screwing up my own aim. And I quickly move in because that light tank poses a real threat. If he gets to roam around the battlefield against all three of us, we probably won't get to stand a chance. But the enemy artillery is spotted, and boom, on the move, that Hellhound gets shut down. Oh, and the enemy SU-14-2 gets taken out by the E-50, and the Stark Stritzwang S1 is holding its position. Can I get a shot in? Now, if you don't know, 3 caliber rule actually applies to us on console. I had no idea. I actually just found that out when I did the review for that. And Pop the Head decides to come online. But this 90mm will have a harder time penetrating the front of that tank if I hit it at the wrong angle. So, decided to load a high explosive, a HEP rounds, to get into it, and he wasn't paying attention, so I get the side of him, sets him on fire, securing my 5th kill. 14 pens, 3 enemies spotted, and 4 assisted. What does that equivalent to? 100,982 silver, 3,273 experience, 2,489 damage, 1,265 assisted damage. This was a healthy game for us. $1,679 base experience, 26 shots fired, and only 13 pens. Those AP rounds really feel like they disappoint you, but just remember when you're firing at the front of heavier tanks, you might want to decide to load some premium. And even then you might not penetrate. 250 on some of the higher tier heavy tanks don't really do much. running over the efficiency screen, we can see who all we did damage to, where we got the assisted, as well as who we killed. Overall, very good game, and even if you decide not to run with a premium account, 63,613 is still profitable for silver account users. So, as far as the tank, the Hellhound is concerned, this tank has been fun to play. And I say that in every respect of the words because light tanks are normally my go-to tanks when I just want to have fun, roam around the battlefield, and in general just enjoy the game. Not to mention I get to drive around with this cool chains on my gun and the skull hanging. Aesthetically, this tank just feels fun to look at, and you get a lot of strange people. Everybody decides to turn their turret towards you, so it's always fun to go into a battle and have that happen. But you know, all in all, this tank rates really good as far as being in a brand new addition, and as well as a great new crew trainer to the German nation. If you guys decide to buy it, I highly recommend it. Wargaming still has this bundle going on, I believe. Halloween might be over, but the fun can just begin if you decide to get this tank. But that's all from me, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like down below. All that fun stuff that everyone always says, but I never really have a inkling to do. That's just personal reasons. But again, if you did enjoy it, please leave a like down below or comment on what you liked about the tanks or what you liked about any of the monster tanks this time around, or one of your favorite things about this brand new tier 8 German light tank. But that's all for the video, guys. Thank you again. Hope you guys have a good night.
Without